Hello, Doral. I'm your mayor, Christi, and we're back with another episode of In the City con Christi. And this week we have someone very special to us. We have Gabriel Bonilla, who is the director of Las Paredes Oyen, a current immersive theater that we have going on in our Cultural Arts Center. So important. This was such a big initiative that I had to bring theater to Doral. Many of our residents been asking for, but particularly this play is something that hit home. And so we have him today to share a little bit about this experience. Gabriel, welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here and to be doing this with the city of Doral. So thank you very much for having us throughout all of this. We appreciate it very much.
We're super excited. So the play is going to run right now through July 6th.
Mm-hmm.
We're hoping to extend. So please, if you haven't bought your tickets, buy tickets, support the theater, support what they're doing. We're going to talk a little bit about the play so you know what it's all about. But you don't want to miss this. I mean, it is incredible. It's immersive. So if you haven't been to immersive theater, we're going to talk a little bit about that too. What is immersive theater? We really want to encourage you to come out and get your tickets, and hopefully we'll be able to run the show longer so that they can get this message out to as many people as possible. With that, Gabriel, tell us a little bit about what is Las Paredes Oyen. What is this play about? What does it mean to you?
Sure. So Las Paredes Oyen, The Walls Have Ears, originally written in English. Robbie Ramos, written by Robbie Ramos, a good friend of mine. He was inspired by what his grandfather went through as a political prisoner in Isla de Pino, Cuba. Mm-hmm. And what really pushed him to tell the story was when he was up in New York studying acting and pursuing it at the very beginning. And he realized that a lot of people really didn't know the true story behind Cuba and behind some of these figures that a lot of people idolize. Mm-hmm. He would walk into theaters and see faces of people on the walls, and he was like, wow, there's a story behind you that I don't think you guys know. Mm-hmm. So based on that and his grandfather's story, he wrote Las Paredes Oyen. So it takes place in Miami and in Isla de Pinos, Cuba in 1962 during the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. I have to ask, what were these posters or pictures on the wall that you saw?
Yeah, Fidel Castro, Che, and a lot of people idolize and don't really know the story and what really happened.
And how important is that history?
It's incredible it's incredibly important because history repeats itself, and these things are still happening in Cuba. Things similar are happening here. Freedom of speech is a huge thing that the play touches on. So it's very important to educate, I think, all generations. Yesterday we had a show for kids, and they received it. We weren't prepared for the feedback that we got. They wrote us messages on Instagram. They reached out to all the actors. They stayed. They took photos. It was incredible to see them engage like that.
Yeah, I was there, and you can. First of all, I was watching people. So this is the second time I watched the play because the reason why I wanted you all here in Doral was because I saw it when you did it in Westchester.
Right.
By the way, it's 10 times better here, not because it's Doral, although I'm biased, but what you guys built, this for those of you who have been in our Cultural Arts Center, it's a blank space. It is a blank canvas. Yep. What they have built in there, you really feel like you are part of the cast. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that part of it.
Hence the name, really, which I love to touch on. Las Paredes Oyen. The audience becomes the walls. You are part of Las Paredes, which is why we integrate the audience into the set like that.
I hadn't thought about it like that, but that's great. But I got to watch it the first time. I saw it again now and refreshed my memory on it. But I took time this time to watch people's expressions as it was happening. And I saw tears. I saw a little bit of laughter. And so, and these were young students, which leads me to how we got here also is you guys got a grant from the state, from the anti-communism bill, which requires funding for teaching the dangers of communism. And so, I think this is such an important message to our youth, right? And so I think that that's such a big part of what you guys are doing here, which was one of my questions to you when we saw it yesterday is, what has been the most impactful message you've gotten from someone who's watched the play that's come up to you at the end?
So last night, I think, I don't want to give away too much, but one of the actresses in the show has to write lines as a form of punishment, right? And she writes lines throughout the whole show. So if you watch her, she's writing these lines. I will not, I'm not going to say what it is, but I will not do this and that. And there was a student who recalled the story from her father who had to do the same. And she said it was like reliving and just watching the stories of her father. And she wrote all the actors a message. She reached out to everybody, and she was incredibly moved. And it was moving to read that message. I mean, and especially a younger generation, I don't know, high school or early college at most, you know?
They were high school students mostly,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what moment during this, because you've done this now 3 times, right? You guys have had the play 3 times. At what moment did you realize this was much more than a play, but a mission?
I think it became clear to us when we took it to LA for the first time as a read. So this has gone through many phases, and it was originally written in English. We did 2 reads in Miami, and there was a crowd, and I said, let's see if there's a crowd in LA, because that's where I'm based out of now currently. So I said, let's see if there's a crowd in LA. And reads in LA don't usually do well. It was a sold out, packed room. And we thought, man, maybe we have something here. What if we put this up? And so we did the English version first, realized that it was moving. And the people who came were like, we realized that there was a better way to tell the story. And it was by doing it in the native language of what would have happened, right?
Yeah.
So
which is one of my questions.
Yes.
This is a bilingual.
Yes.
It actually happens bilingual.
Yes, absolutely. So what happens in Cuba happens in Spanish. And what happens in the US in the radio station is in English, and then eventually the worlds collide, and you get a mix of, you know, Spanglish and all sorts of things. So
yeah. Which is incredibly interesting and dynamic as it's happening. Let's talk about the immersive side of this.
Yeah.
What is immersive theater, and how did, and you just touched upon that, but talk to me about the immersive side of it.
Immersive theater is incredible. I think it's the way to go for theater. It is being completely immersed in all aspects of it. So the actors may talk to you, they may touch you, they may sit right in front of you. You may be part of the scene, especially depending on where you're sitting. There's sounds everywhere. The actors also have access to the whole space, as you saw, so they can walk behind you, they can pop out of different areas. You are part of the set in this version of the show.
Yeah, and I don't want to give too much away either, but there's so much more that involves you, whether you know it or not, as it's happening. But I think that the immersive side of it just makes it, first of all, it makes it much more intimate. It is an intimate setting, so limited tickets. Make sure you get them, because there's only about 80 to 100 seats, depending on how the setup is made that day. But it's very, very limited, and, you know, those front row seats are the most coveted, and they go quickly. So make sure you grab those tickets. Shows are Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays for the matinee. So you want to make sure, 4 p.m. And we have tons of little activities happening each day differently.
Yes.
There may be a cigar roller one night. There may be a band. There's an art exhibit that goes with it as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have the Children's of Exiles exhibit, and we hope to keep bringing all different sorts of artists from all sorts of genres in and out of there. And that will be open as well throughout the week. If somebody wants to come by and just take a look at what we have there, you know, they're more than welcome to come in. So
yeah, awesome. So if you could choose one person in the world to have to watch this play, who would it be?
One person in the world to have to watch this play. Wow, that's a question I haven't been asked yet. You know, I'm gonna surmise this one person into this fictional keyboard warrior that these warriors that sit behind the screen and talk about, you know, how great it is to live in these other countries and Cuba's healthcare system and how great the communist regime does such and such. That this famous like person who likes to troll everybody online. You don't even have to go to Cuba and live it for yourself. Come watch the show, because it's a real story, and then tell me if you wanna, you know.
Leads me to my next question. If someone watches this play and continues to defend socialism, is it? Are they blind, or is it privilege?
I think it's a combo of both, and it's a lot of times it's harder to admit that you're wrong on something, especially if you've spent your whole life fighting for a cause. And there are so many in Cuba still who will defend it to the death, the older generation, as the rest of the you know, country is starving, fleeing, and drowning, literally, right, to escape. So yeah, I think it's a combo of both.
Yeah. And how about our kids here that grew up? Like I'm bringing my 9-year-old son to see it, and maybe some people wouldn't want their 9-year-old to see this, because it does have some strong language, and it's some very tough moments to watch. For me, it's important. My husband came from Cuba in the 90s. His brother was one of the first to get on a raft. He was actually on the front page of the Miami Herald, picked up by the Queen Elizabeth or Queen Mary cruise ship. So it's a story that hits home. Not just, my parents came much younger. They are much longer ago. They came in the 60s. But my husband's family really lived through a periodo especial, some really tough times. He walked in there and tears came out of his eyes. knowing what his brother went through, because he got on a raft and risked his life and left because they would come pick him up every Sunday to go to serve in the military, and he refused, and he was gonna get killed, and so he had to get on a raft and leave. And so I don't want my son not to know these stories, and to understand the sacrifices that our heritage made for him to have a better life. And I'm farther removed from it than my husband, and even he, right? Because my husband still lived it. That's his father, but mine was my grandparents, right? So I think that every generation we remove, where one removed, we lose, and that's where we have history repeat itself.
Absolutely.
So talk to me about that a little bit, and why, how do we connect more with the youth on how important it is to come live these moments through theater?
Yeah, I think as a kid, I grew up on these stories, right? And I was also removed because my parents came in the 50s. They came relatively young, but my grandfather had a hand in somewhat of the topics that we touch upon in the show. And I think the more it's just a torch that you have to pass down. So my parents kind of lit the flame as I was a kid and reminded me of what my grandfather went through. And, I connected with it to an extent. And then I did another show called The Amparo Experience that really lit the flame for me. And from The Amparo Experience, we built this team who, by the way, all the actors, the Spanish-speaking actors, are all Cuban, born in Cuba. They all went through this, firsthand. So when we were rewriting the script and putting this together, it was like a new process for me to relive this whole thing. And it was like the torch being passed on again. And I kept thinking, well, this is what storytelling is, and this is how whether it's through theater or whether it's through TV and film or any sort of, even art, we're passing this physical or this storytelling version on. And I think if we just keep doing that and lighting the flame, we won't forget the past.
Yeah, we can't let it. We can't let that fizzle. We can't let that die. We have to continue to pass it on to these generations. It's literally our roots.
Yep.
So that's super important. Yeah. Which leads me to my next question about theater, is that it's no secret that we're seeing theater kind of fizzle. We're seeing less crowds on theater in certain aspects. There's now, with this digital age and Netflix and on demand and all these things. So how do we keep the youth engaged in culture and the arts?
Yeah, I think the first step was what you're doing by supporting these groups, because funding for arts is being slashed left and right. So if you don't have a way to introduce this to the younger population, it means nothing to them later to watch a show. A lot of the kids sometimes come and have never seen a play before, and it's like, what is this? So I think the most important thing is to find government agencies and officials who will support theater in general,
and
arts,
the private sector, which we did.
Yep.
I want to highlight that we had some incredible sponsors besides the grant that you guys got from the state, and obviously the city providing as a host. Badia Spices, the Badia Foundation donated, Downtown Doral, Hyundai, or Lithia Motors. We went out and got sponsors because this does have a cost to it. There's a cost to putting on the production. Yeah. The actors have to get paid, and the set was constructed, and there's permits and everything that had to be done. So, as much as I want to support it and do it, I have a public, I have to be conservative with our public funds and be mindful of that.
But just having the stage,
but just having the ability to connect with people who do want to promote this and reach out to the private sector, I think it's so important, and something I definitely want to promote and make a priority. Yeah. And I'm so glad you guys are here, and I think this is extremely impactful, and I really hope you all will come and experience this. And it's my hope to do this every summer in Doral with a different play, right? But something that is meaningful, impactful, promotes the arts and theater. And many people here have been asking for theater for a long time. We have the space, and doing this the first time, now we've proven that we can do it in this space and have theater. So I'm extremely grateful to you guys for believing in me and in our city.
Thank you.
And wanting to come and do this. And I think it's going to be a success. We have a really fun nights ahead of us in promoting this. Again, I cannot encourage our audience enough to go out and purchase these tickets and come and see it. Don't miss it. Tell them where they can do that, Gabriel.
Yes,
share that as well.
lasparedesoyen.com. You can also English thewallsplay.com. And we have all our ticket sales there. The ones that say VIP are the seats that we were referring to as the front row seats. And if you can snag some of those, I highly, highly recommend sitting up in the front.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, tell us what's next for Gabriel after Las Paredes Oyen.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm a Miami boy, 305, born and raised, but I'm based out of LA. So when this is over, I will be heading back to keep chasing the dream. But if I have some news, I will share it with you soon. I promise.
Yeah. Is there a certain genre like this that you're trying to pursue, or you're open to all types of theater?
A little bit of everything: TV, film, theater. Yeah.
Awesome. When we look forward to seeing big things come from you guys. I also want to thank Robbie Ramos, the writer and producer, who also believed in doing this all over again. I know he was super excited. He couldn't join us for the podcast, but you'll see him. He's super intense right now into everything that's going on at the Cultural Center to make sure it's all perfect for our residents. So again, thank you guys. God bless you and the work you're doing. Let me tell you, it's tough times right now. And I think that there's so many people that need to see this, and there's a message that it must be shared. Absolutely. And we hope that you all will grasp that message in coming to watch a play that is moving, that'll make you cry, make you laugh, make you feel, make you connect with your roots. Don't miss Las Paredes Oyen in our Cultural Arts Center, running right now through July 6th. Make sure to get your tickets at the link below. If you like what you've seen today in our podcast, make sure you subscribe. I'm your mayor, Christi Fraga. This is our space to bring you all the great people that make up the greatest place to live, work, learn, and play, Doral. Thanks for joining us. Woo. Awesome.